Hey guys, it's Ramit Sethi, and we are going to get started with one of the most important areas today of earning your first $1,000, and that is defining your target market. Now, I can't overstate this enough, but so many people love to skip this area or just kind of glance over it as if it's not that important. You ask people, who are you trying to market to? And they've got the broadest, vaguest answers. Oh, people who are interested in technology. No, 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 no. Today we're going to figure out exactly how to target your market in extreme detail and how to get inside their heads. And that is so important because once you get inside their heads, once you understand what it is they're looking for, then you can tailor your services, your pricing, all that stuff becomes mere details. Because most people will focus on these details, these logistics of pricing and how should I package my offering. But they never really get to the hardest thing, which is understanding their target market and what they really want. So, classic marketing rule number one is to define your target market. As I said, people gloss over it, but we want to start off in the right way. Okay? It's funny because if you go and ask multiple business people in multiple different industries, they will give you these really vague answers, but they won't actually know how. Now, we've put together a little example here. So, someone hires you and they say, help us reach more people. And then you say, who are you trying to reach? And they say, well, anybody. Oh, okay, well, why don't we just go find a magazine that reaches out to anybody? First of all, there are no magazines like that. And second of all, the ones that are closest to that, the ones that reach out to the most people, are the most expensive to get ads in. So you take a magazine like People Magazine, a national publication, which reaches, I would say, an average cross section of people, maybe a little bit more interested in gossip than the average, but an average cross section nonetheless. Ads in that magazine are going to be extraordinarily expensive. However, if you find a target niche, you're going to already cut through the clutter and you're going to be able to pay less and reach more highly qualified people. Put another way, have you ever been watching TV? Let's say you're 25 years old and you're watching TV and you see an ad for estate planning or for diapers. And you kind of think to yourself, wow, they are wasting so much money reaching someone like me. And that's exactly right. Because if they're advertising diapers, they could probably do a much more targeted campaign than a broad-based television campaign. So we want to show how to be precise, not random. Now let's take a case study, all right? You're an executive vice president of marketing for a software company. You have a $300,000 budget for TV this January. What are you going to do? Now, even with a large budget and a broad-based advertising platform like TV, you still need to know where to target your audience. And for that, you need to know who they are. Who are they? What shows do they watch? What time are they using TiVo? What are their pain points? So, what else do they drink? Why do they drink it? Are they drinking Coke because it's simply, it's been advertised well? Or are they drinking a niche drink because they want to impress their niche peers? Maybe they're hipsters. You need to understand these things because once you understand them, you can then find appropriate distribution methods, or in other words, different channels or different shows where you will reach your target audience. You don't want to be advertising a hipster drink on American Idol. It's going to be cost prohibitive and you're not going to reach the right type of people. And as we say here, you need to be precise with your spending. Okay? So how do you target people? And there are a variety of ways to do it. Let's take a look at some of them. Geographically is one. I've got a friend who actually is starting a Chicago-based events business. So he's got a very narrow set of options, which is great. He can do bus ads, he can do Chicago TV, he can do online stuff, etc. But it's all geographically based. You can do demographics. And you'll see this a lot, especially when it comes to political marketing. They'll be advertising in different ways for different age groups or demographics. So you're going to see certain messages going out to people in their 20s, whereas very different messages to grannies in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. Same thing is true when it comes to attitudinal marketing. And we'll show you a little bit more. The point is that you can target people in a variety of ways, not just one way. A lot of times people think, I'll target on price. But that's not the first place you want to start. Price comes much, much later. So here's an example of where you've noticed that targeted marketing works. Now, we've all done this. I've done this myself, where you decide, oh, I need to get a job or I want to get a job, and you send out 50 resumes. And you'll see people in newspapers often complaining about this. They'll say, I've sent out my resume 75 times and I haven't heard back at all. Now, there's a variety of reasons and people we can blame, but the first person we can blame is ourselves because we're not doing the targeted marketing here. What we really need to be doing is saying, I'm going to narrow it down. I'm going to pick 5, 10, maybe 20 companies where I know the industry, where I can write a custom tailored cover letter, and I'm going to show them, I'm going to knock their socks off that I understand their business and their business problems. All right? If you do that, your conversion rate goes way up, even though you're pitching to a smaller group of people. To put it another way, you'd rather pitch to 20 people and get a 50% response rate than pitch to 1,000 people and get a 0% response rate. Niche it down. All right. Now we're going to talk about something a little counterintuitive here, and that is saying no. Now, rookie business people will often try to target the most broad-based thing they can. I'm going to help people with their technology problems. Well, guess what? It's so broad that it effectively reaches no one because you're drowned out by noise. Okay? So what you need to do is actually say no. Who am I not going to serve? And I'll give you some examples from my own site, I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And I'll do that a little bit later, but in general, you can imagine the type of people that I do not serve. I do not serve far more people than I actually serve. I actively seek out a niche audience. Okay? What we want to say is read it again. It's important. Saying no is as important, maybe even more important than who you're going to say yes to. And you'll see this time and time again where small business people will say, yeah, target marketing, that's really important. And then they just try to market to everyone. So take a second and think about this. You've got your skills. You've got a rough idea of your services. Who are you not going to market to? Take a second and think about it. Could it be based on age? Could it be based on location? Might it be based on a variety of other factors? One of the things that I do is I market to people who are willing to pay for value. And I actively do not market to people who are not willing to pay for value. So there's a variety of ways you want to think about this. Again, who are you not going to market to? Why does this help? Why is it important to niche it down? The first thing is that it orients you. It gives you a direction for your marketing. If you know that you have picked a niche of a certain type of person, of a certain age group, with a certain income in a certain geographic location, that would be very, very niche. Maybe you do that niche, maybe not, but pretty niche. You're going to know where to start. You're going to say, oh, these are the magazines that they read, and these are the websites that they go to, and these are the attitudes they have. If you don't, you might as well just pick up a phone book. Or you might as well just go out on the street and hand out those signs for $8 an hour because you're just going to be getting a broad cross-section. And the worst part about it is you're going to think you're doing work, but you're not going to see the results. And that's not what we want. We want you to niche it down, spend a lot of time figuring out who your target market and your services are, because then the results will come much easier. This is, in my opinion, the most important reason why getting niche works. And that is you can get in your buyer's head. Okay? So let's take an example. Let's say that I'm creating a product or a service to help people earn $1,000 a month. Let's just pretend, okay? Now, which of these two options would you be more attracted to? Option A, looking to earn $1,000 a month? We help poor people, blind people, Ivy League grads, senior executives, and immigrants earn $1,000 a month. Or option B, if you have a full-time job and you're looking to use your skills to generate an extra $1,000 a month with your limited time, we've got hyper-efficient, proven strategies that have worked for people like you. Which are you more likely to go towards? Obviously option B, because it speaks to you. And the things that I spoke to in that example were you've got a full-time job, you've got limited time, and we've got proven strategies that have worked for people like you. If you can get inside people's heads, then you can create an utterly compelling offer. The price point will make sense, the offer will make sense, the guarantee will make sense, and the places that you market to them will make sense. Getting in their heads is perhaps the most important thing you do as a business person and a marketer. You sit down quietly and think, okay, what does this person want to do? Maybe this person is a freelance writer, and they earn currently $100 a month, but they know they could do better. They're just not sure what to do. They've tried a little bit of Facebook marketing. They've tried a little bit of this and that. What is it they're looking for? Are they frustrated? Are they ambitious? And then you craft your product and your message and your outreach to someone whose head you've gotten inside of. Okay? Another thing that getting niche does for you is it helps you specialize. And when you can specialize, first of all, you can cut your costs because you don't have to market in broad-based magazines or media sources. You can advertise in niche things and get much higher return on investment. The second thing is you can charge a lot more. So let's take another example. Let's say you are a let's say that you are a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids. Which of these are more appealing to you? Option A, I'm a business coach for your business needs. Or option B, the world's top business coach for stay-at-home moms looking to transition back into the workplace. Again, which is more appealing? When you can specialize, you can charge a lot more because you're focusing only on that niche. And finally, it helps you set up your long-term strategy. So we are taking baby steps right now, but ultimately your strategy is going to be very important in knowing who you're going after and who you're not going after. So all these things are incumbent upon the idea of starting off with a niche and really getting inside your potential customers or your prospects' heads. Would you go from this to this? Okay, you want to keep it simple and straightforward. So, common question, won't I lose some people if I do this? Ramit, I could advertise in People Magazine or Time Magazine or on some really big site like CNN.com and get 1 million people coming to this site. Isn't that better than just picking some small rinky-dink online site or magazine or any distribution method? Well, let's tackle that because this is perhaps the most common question we get. It's okay to pick less people if you're going to get more conversions or more business. Now, I want to give you an example from my own I Will Teach You to Be Rich experience. I have various distribution methods with my own business. So I've got my blog, I've got my newsletter, etc. When I was launching something in 2009 called the I Will Teach You to Be Rich Bootcamp, I asked people if they would be interested in joining a small sub-list to learn more about the bootcamp. And I took a few thousand people onto that small list. It turned out that that small list, even though I have many, many, many times the amount of people on other lists and other things, that small list generated about 67% of my revenue. In other words, that small niche list generated the vast majority of my revenue. So yeah, I had other places I could market to people, but this small list of people who were interested converted and gave me tons more revenue than any of the other areas. That's what you want to start thinking. You want to start thinking of small niche areas you can go after because they will be the highest return for your time and for your money. So here's another example, and this is a case study of myself. I actively avoid frugality, even though there are far more people who are interested in frugality than people who are seriously interested in earning more money and entrepreneurship. Why? Because I don't understand it. My work is antithetical to it. I don't want to talk about counting grains of rice or even, even more reasonable things. That's just not what I'm interested in. And in my opinion, you can't have it all. You can't do huge big wins and frugality. Type of people split into one or the other. The nice thing is my readers know what to expect. You're listening to this, you're watching this. You know about big wins, paying for value, and spending money to make more money. You're not probably as interested in, how do I save money on lattes or Cokes or my own detergent? That's just not who you are. As a result, I actively try to get more and more people who are interested in big wins and entrepreneurship and earning more, and I actively try to get frugality people to not go to my site. How do I do that? I write things about frugality, and the people who are interested in frugality, they recognize, hey, this site isn't for me. I better go to another site. And the people who are interested in entrepreneurship, and other things like that see what I'm writing and come to my site and become engaged. So yes, the market is far bigger for frugality, but that's not the market I'm interested in. I'm interested in a small, in my opinion, much better niche because that's who I am, that's what I understand, and that's where I want my business to go. Remember this, you don't have to worry about it. A lot of times people worry about, oh my God, aren't I going to be ignoring such a huge market? Yes, you are. That's okay. You don't, as long as you are focusing on a niche that makes sense and you have a plan, then that is great. That's what you want to be doing. And if you have a plan, even if the particular niche doesn't work, you can always switch niches. Okay, so this is in general called segmentation. It's the act of breaking down a big group into smaller, similar parts. Now, I hinted at this a few minutes ago in terms of how do you segment people. Let's get into this in a little bit more detail. Okay, so when you go to segment off who you're going to go after, some of it can be based on preference. For example, I am a B2C or business to consumer person. I love talking to consumers, regular people like you and me. I'm not a B2B guy. But some other people might say, I want to work with small businesses because they're more reliable and paying than consumers, or they're more fun than working with big businesses. Perfectly reasonable segmentation. You also want to think about your own skills. We've talked about that earlier. And you want to talk about where you're strong, okay? So you wouldn't want to necessarily start off your freelance career by going into a market you don't understand. Better to pick one that you do understand, prove that you can generate some income, and then you can expand to other areas. Okay, look at this last note that we added here because it's very important. Most business people are terrible at defining target customers and target markets. They make the classic mistakes of picking too broad markets and not knowing how to niche it down. If you can develop this skill, not only is it good for you in terms of your freelancing income, but it's a great skill that you can offer to other business people if you decide to. For example, if someone came in to my business and said, Ramit, I'm an expert at segmentation and picking target markets and then really going after them. And Ramit, I think you are a little bit off on your segmentation, and let me come to you with a proposal on how I would do better. That would be extremely interesting to me. And what would I pay for that? Probably a lot. Okay, now some of you will be B2B. You'll be focusing on getting businesses as clients. So we want to talk about that for a second. How do you segment for those? Okay, industry is a great one. If you have worked in the industry before, this is perfect because you will show that you understand the industry. In fact, a lot of independent consultants who are very successful, they're making multiple six figures. They started off working in the industry. Imagine people who work in real estate or technology, etc. A lot of these people will work at big companies. They'll see things that are broken. They'll say, man, it's really hard for these companies to collaborate. Like sales and marketing just don't talk to each other. So I'm going to create a system to help people do that. Well, that shows your industry expertise because you've been in the industry. And it boosts your perceived value because on every marketing collateral message you put together, on your resume, on everything, you're going to say, I worked in this industry for 7 years and I understand what's going on, or 17 years. We talked about my friend who's creating a business based in Chicago. If you're targeting businesses in a certain region, that really makes your life a lot easier because it cuts down the universe of choices of where you'll market down to a few key choices. You've got regional outdoor advertising, you've got online advertising, you've got print, you've got TV, but even with all those choices, it's still limited to a certain geographic area. And the other benefit of geographic area is that it's cheaper. It's always cheaper to target demographically in a local area than nationally. Web presence. A lot of people think that only online businesses are who you should go after, but that's not true. When you think about your target market, you also want to be thinking about which target markets are underserved. So I bet you, lots of websites or lots of web businesses get pitched all the time, but do you think that like grandpa's automotive repair shop down the street gets pitched a lot? What if you could go to him and say, hey, I can help you get online and help you add 30% to your bottom line. Would you be interested in that? I bet you he would. Grandpa would say yes. Do they sell products or services? What kind? That's a very different question. So if someone sells products, they are more interested in optimizing their sales funnel and things like that. They don't want to spend a lot of time adding to their products. If they add services, they want to know how to get better qualified clients. How do they improve and optimize their sales funnel so they're only dealing with people who want to pay? How do they raise their rates? Basically the same thing that you're looking to do. Okay? And finally, who are they going after? If they're going after a certain clientele that you happen to know very well, then you can be a huge value add to them. I'll give you an example. Um, I consulted for a couple venture capital firms in Silicon Valley. Now, that sounds really fancy. What did I do? I taught them how to use things like YouTube, MySpace, online photos, and all kinds of stuff like that. That's something that we all know, but I turned it into expertise and I turned it into income because I was able to show these VCs who are very smart on their own how young people were thinking about this stuff. Okay, I'll never forget being in the boardroom of this venture capital firm, showing them how guys check out girls on MySpace. To me, that may have been the crowning achievement of my career. But the key is that we all know these things, right? It's second nature to us, but we have to stop and think, where are businesses that I could target and reach who have clientele like me, and I can help them better understand these people? So I was able to do that with the venture capital industry. There are probably other areas where you could do that for yourself. And finally, what's the stage of these businesses you're trying to target? If they're smaller, they're going to have certain constraints, like they don't want to pay you that much. That's fine, but you can get in on the ground floor and make a lot of impact and potentially set yourself up to make a lot more money later on. Are they bigger businesses? If so, they're going to be much more strategic and streamlined about paying you, but they may not have as much upward potential. It really depends. Just to give you an example, when we raised money as a company, when I did my last collaboration company, as soon as it was announced in the press that we had raised money, we got tons and tons of recruiters coming after us, calling my cell phone, calling everyone. Why? Because these guys knew that as soon as you raise money, you're going to want to hire a lot of people. So they knew that the business stage for us was critical. Now, frankly, I regarded them as sharks because if they had been smart, they would have been in a relationship with me much before we raised money and announced it publicly. These guys were basically just bottom feeders, ambulance chasers, trying to make a quick buck after we had publicly announced that we raised money. Better to build relationships because then they know you after the fact. So that was for businesses if you're going after business, in other words, B2B. But what if you're going after consumers, regular people? How should you think about targeting them? Location, we've talked about this. Income level, absolutely. I do this in many ways with I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And this is the difference in income level between people who are focused on frugality and people who are focused on entrepreneurship or earning more. You can tell there's an implicit difference in income level. And accordingly, my products and services cost a different amount than you would see somewhere else. They cost a lot more. Demographic, we've talked about this. A great example of education segmentation is these Ivy League mixers, where you have to have gone to an Ivy League school to get in and mix and network, and maybe even they have singles pickup or singles things for Ivy League grads. Why? You might say, oh, that sounds really snobbish, whatever. Maybe it does, maybe not. But the point is there's a market for that, where Ivy League people want to, say, meet other Ivy League people because it's a pre-screen for them. In other words, they want someone to do the segmentation for them. So think about that. How could you use that to your advantage? Where are there groups of people that want you to do the segmentation for them? Life situations. If you've ever moved, you know that as soon as you move into your new place, you'll start getting lots of stuff in the mail in terms of discounts and coupons for local vendors, all kinds of stuff. That's because companies know there are critical life stages where people are more apt to buy certain things and buy products or services. These are critical life stages like having a baby, getting married, getting divorced, moving. There are all kinds of stages. There's about 7 critical life stages, okay? And those are areas where you can help people and you can create a business around them. Common interests. We know this. Yoga enthusiasts, if, for example, you are teaching people how to do yoga, then you probably want to put your ads in areas where yoga people go. Now, get in their heads. Where do yoga people go? Do they go to shop do they eat at McDonald's? Probably not. Do they eat at Whole Foods? Interesting. I bet they do. They buy their groceries there. So do they have a bulletin board? That's a very rudimentary example. Now, people who are interested in yoga, where else do they go? What websites do they read? Could you buy advertising? Could you do a guest post on those sites? How do you go to where your target market is? But first, before you figure out how you go to it, you want to figure out who your target market is. That's what we're doing today. And finally, this comes back to getting inside their heads. What is their big problem? Do they want to make more money? Do they want to lose weight? It's not that people just want to do all this stuff. You have to get niche. Niche it down. What does your audience have as a problem? A challenge, an aspiration, a hope, a goal. Now, for the people who I marketed this to, I know that you want to earn more money. You've got great skills. You've got limited time. You want a credible way to earn more money. The other things I thought about when I thought about who you are, I thought about, when they know they want to earn more money, they're just not sure how. When you think about the market, it's just a bunch of scammy get-rich-quick guys, so they want credibility. They want really high-quality content, okay? Limited time. They want to not only get tips and strategies on how to do it, they want to see how other people have done it. So now I'm getting inside your head, right? What are your big challenges? Limited time, frustration because you're not sure what to do, how to go about it, what's a step-by-step system to do it. And all these things helped us come up with how to build this, what you're listening to right now. So, what's too niche and what's too broad? Let's go over this, and I just want to give you a couple examples here. It should be fairly specific, but it should have the potential to appeal to a lot of clients. Now remember, a few minutes ago I talked about that example of the business coach for your business needs versus the world's top business coach for stay-at-home moms looking to transition back into the workplace. Now, the second one, which obviously sounds much, much better, much more targeted, will let you, if you were that, you would be able to charge a lot more. You would actually have a really big base of people because there's a lot of stay-at-home moms who want to transition back into the workplace, and they're evergreen. There's always new stay-at-home moms who want to transition back into the workplace, okay? And perhaps the best thing is stay-at-home moms who want to transition back into the workplace know other stay-at-home moms just like that. So if you're able to help 10 or 20 or 30, they'll tell their friends. So, but how do you create a nice balance of niche versus broad? Let's take a look. Here's an example of something that may be considered too niche, especially starting off. I'm writing for technology startups who want to monetize using Twitter. I mean, how many startups are there like that? If you find that the market is big enough, then that could be great. Because it's ultra specific. But starting off, it may be a little bit too niche. You could say business writing for technology startups. Okay, that's a little bit broader, maybe too broad. You might argue, Ramit, I think that it should be somewhere in the middle, and that's fine. But remember, you can go both ways. You can start off really niche and broaden it out. That's the best way. It's a little harder going from really broad to niche because you're going to have to think a lot harder. That's what you're doing right now, is figuring out how niche you want to go. There's another rule of thumb here. This is the second one, the two qualifier method. You pick the cross-section between two market segments. Let's take a look. Students living in Madison, Wisconsin. Perfect. So who and where? Okay, and if you go back up a few minutes, you'll see we had a variety of different qualifiers and ways you can segment people. Here we used who, or life stage, and location. Another one, retail stores that operate purely offline. Okay, we're using the two qualifier method for segmentation. So, what do we do with this? Action step number one, you're going to pick your niche. We recommend you pick your niche using the two qualifier method. Let's take a look. Qualifier 1 and qualifier 2 who need your service. So here's how it might look. Small business companies in the financial services industry who need copywriting services. Now I'll give you a great example of this myself. When I was in high school, I went after, I looked at these companies online and I said, man, these companies do not know how to write. They can't write for the web. And I like to think I was a good writer back then, even though I look at some of my stuff and I want to kill myself. But I started emailing a lot of different companies. And finally, I realized the web hosting industry, there were a ton of web hosting companies, and none of them knew how to write. So I really niched it down to the web hosting industry who needed copywriting. Okay? So that's who I went after. And I went after smaller ones. So who are you going to go after using the two qualifier method? Think about it for a second. I want you to take a second and think about it. Okay? You can refer back to the above slides if you have any questions, because there are a lot of different ways to segment people. Here's another one. This is a great one in my opinion. Bloggers with 1,000 to 5,000 subscribers who want to develop information products. So let me just go on a 1 or 2 minute riff on these people, because this is a great target market. I wish more people went after this. So you're a blogger. You've got 1,000 to 5,000 subscribers. And how do you, as the freelancer, tell that? Because a lot of bloggers put the number of readers right on their blog. So 1,000 to 5,000 is a good amount. It shows that you've got decent readership, but you're not so big that you've got the resources to do this on your own. You're probably just a casual blogger who happens to be good enough to get 1 to 5,000 subscribers. So let's get in their heads. What do these bloggers want? Well, they have a full-time job, so they want more time. And they're probably looking at their income from the blog and they're saying, man, I spend like 30 hours a week on this thing and I'm really not making that much money. I'm making like 20 bucks a month. It would be great if somehow I could make enough money. Maybe one day I'll be able to quit my job. But I just don't know how. I'm just so busy blogging. I don't have any idea how I could find the time to figure this out. And AdSense isn't working that well. So you come along, freelancer, and you say, hey, I noticed that you've got 3,000 subscribers. That's actually really impressive. I'd love to help you develop some information products, maybe an ebook, maybe an audio course, because you are really, really excellent at XYZ. So could I help you do that? And we can talk about compensation. It could be, and you get into that, it could be hourly, it could be a percentage or whatever. But you've picked a niche where you can easily identify those people and you've gotten in their heads. You've said, oh, I realize they need more time and money, and I can help them do that. Perfect. Here's another one. Working parents in the San Francisco Bay Area who want tutoring for their high school kids. Beautiful way to break down the niche. Working parents, because you can get in their heads, you know that they need more time, they probably have money that they can spend, and they really, more than anything else, care about their kids. They're in the San Francisco Bay Area, so you can niche it down in terms of your marketing. You can find out where these working parents hang out. Do they read mommy blogs specifically based for the San Francisco Bay Area? Where do they shop? Where do they eat? What about the schools where the parents drop the kids off to? And then, of course, you've got your offering, which is tutoring for high school kids. Not all kids, high school kids. You see how you took that two qualifier method and broke it down? And this makes a lot more things clear. You start to be able to much more easily pick pricing and marketing methods and all kinds of stuff. But the hard part is really getting in their heads and identifying who your niche is. Second action step, create an ideal client profile, an ICP. So a niche is a market, right? We've talked about it. A niche is not one person, it's a market. It's a group of people. But an ideal client profile is the profile of one perfect client in that niche. Perfect. I say perfect. Let's dig into that for a second. You'll probably never find someone who is that perfect, okay? Who actually fits your ICP exactly. But it's really helpful to create a persona of who that person might be, because they're your extreme perfect example. You can really get in their heads. It's pure when you get in their heads. Okay? Like I said, you can think about who they are. What do they think? What do they fear? What do they want? And as we write here, it's a deceptively useful technique. If you want to learn more about this, you can go online and search for persona design, and you'll learn a little bit more about this technique. So, what do you do with the ICP technique? You want to describe them in as much detail as possible. And it's okay if you fake it, and it's okay if you get it wrong, because you're going to test this stuff by going out to the market. So you might say, Michelle is a stay-at-home mom. She's got 2 kids, and she has been out of the workforce for about 8 years. Before that, she was a high-powered executive, and she worked in the insurance industry. And she's a little worried that her skills have atrophied, and she's also a little worried because she sees her friends who have not gone back to the workplace, and she's afraid that if she goes back to the workplace, they'll judge her for not being a good parent. So what are the things that she wants to do? She doesn't have that much time. She's got 2 kids. They're still young, but she needs to get out of the house, and she wants to work, maybe 10 to 20 hours a week. And she's just not sure where to start. Her network has gone a little cold, so she's looking for ways to re-engage her network. How does she do that? Can you provide email scripts? Can you provide case studies? Can you coach her? Presumably, if you're wanting to coach a stay-at-home mom, you may have probably been one who successfully transitioned yourself back into the workplace. So keep that in mind. You don't necessarily want to be coaching or freelancing people on something you're not an expert in. You do want to try to be pretty knowledgeable about it. Although, as we've said before, and we'll say it again later, you don't have to be an expert in everything to generate income, okay, and to provide real value. We do provide a worksheet as part of this program where you can create an ICP, so you can use that worksheet to go through all the details of doing so. All right, so let's talk about what we've covered and what's next. In Module 1, we've laid the groundwork, the most important areas, by talking about our goals, our field of work, who our market is, which is so, so important, and what we won't spend excess time on. Okay? This stuff seems like stuff that you can skip over, and you really want to get into the tactics and the pricing and the marketing strategies and the user loops, but that stuff is detail. This is really, really critical. Going through it and thinking about who is your target market, what are their hopes, what are their fears, where do they hang out, what do they want, what can you offer to them? Those are things that are really, really important. In the next module, we're going to get a little bit more tactical. We're going to talk about crafting your offer. Okay, we're going to target not only who your client is, but what they want. We're going to talk about crisp, sharp deliverables. What can you give to them? What does it look like? Is it online? Is it offline? How do you construct it in a cost-effective way? How do you come up with pricing? And finally, and this is really exciting, how do you start to generate a list of prospects? That is, people who could potentially pay you for your skills and your expertise. That's what's coming up in Module 2. So until then, this is Ramit Sethi for Jeff Kuo saying thank you, and I will see you next time.